Her hair is her glory, Mum. Let's shave it off, Martha spat, her eyes glinting with envy, her voice trembling with raw jealousy. Mama Martha, leaning against the doorway with her arms folded, gave a slow, deliberate smile. Don't worry, my daughter. She will see the other side of me. Her tone was heavy with malice, carrying the promise of cruelty yet to come. The room fell silent for a moment, but the plotting in their hearts burned brighter than fire. Elena was the very picture of grace in the small village of Okudo. Her beauty was a kind that seemed touched by the heavens, but it was her hair, long, thick, and glistening like a waterfall of midnight silk that captured the hearts of many. When she walked to the stream at dawn, the sun seemed to dance upon the strands. Children paused their play just to watch her pass, and women, though they tried to hide it, whispered about how God must have taken extra time in shaping her. Every market day, admirers gathered under the great palm tree, pretending to sell yams or cassava, but in truth, waiting for a glimpse of Elena. Some came bearing gifts, yam tubers polished and stacked neatly, baskets full of cassava roots, or even woven cloth dyed with the brightest indigo, each suitor hoping to win her heart. But Elena, though kind and humble, turned them away gently. She spoke softly, with a smile that never belittled anyone. You are kind, but I am still waiting for what is right. For though she was admired, she was not desperate. She longed not just for wealth or stature, but for a love as true as the moon's light on a quiet night. Behind her beauty lay a story carved in sorrow. At only 10 years old, Elena lost her beloved mother, who had been her anchor and source of comfort. The memory of that day still lived in her heart, like a wound that never healed the wailing, the hurried burial, the silence that followed. Her father, Mr. Ofo, was left broken and lonely. It wasn't long before he remarried, bringing Mama Martha into their home. What Elena hoped would be a second chance at motherly affection turned quickly into chains of cruelty. Mama Martha's smile was for Mr. Ofo alone. For Elena, there were only harsh words and endless chores. She scrubbed floors until her hands blistered, carried water until her back ached, and was given the scraps of food after Martha and her mother had eaten their fill. Whenever Mr. Ofo travelled to the next village for trading, Mama Martha revealed her true colours. Lazy girl! She would snap even if Elena had been working since dawn. You think beauty will cook food in this house? Move faster! Yet, Elena endured it all in silence, her gentle spirit unbroken. By the time she turned 22, she had outgrown the frailty of childhood. No longer the timid girl who cried in the corner, she stood tall, her presence commanding respect. Her suffering had forged her into a woman both bold and confident, with a strength that shone even brighter than her beauty. And it was that very strength that gnawed at Mama Martha and her daughter Martha. No matter how finely Martha dressed, no matter how much she painted her lips or adorned herself with beads, she could never compare to Elena's effortless radiance. Villagers' eyes always turned to Elena first. Jealousy became their constant companion. They despised her not because she wronged them, but because her very existence was a reminder of their own shortcomings. Mama Martha, especially, felt threatened. How could a girl who wasn't her own blood outshine her daughter at every turn? Each day, their envy brewed like poison until it hardened into hatred. One bright morning, the beating of the Ikoro drum echoed through Okudo. Its deep, resonant sound was only used for important announcements. The villagers rushed to the square, curiosity bubbling in their hearts. The town crier, his staff raised high, shouted in a voice that carried across the gathering. "Hear you all, hear everyone. By order of His Royal Highness, Prince Adirika seeks a wife. He shall choose from the maidens of this land. All unmarried daughters are to present themselves at the royal palace during the coming festival." A wave of excitement surged through the crowd. Mothers clutched their daughters' hands tightly, already imagining royal weddings. Girls squealed in delight, adjusting their hair and dreaming of silk gowns and jeweled crowns. Fathers whispered about the honor of their child becoming queen. The whole village buzzed like a disturbed beehive. Every compound, every corner, the only topic was the prince's search for a bride. Martha, along with her two closest friends, Adeze and Chiamaka, could hardly contain themselves. They painted their lips red with kola nut dye, practiced their walk in the yard, and spent hours before cracked mirrors, turning this way and that. But Martha's confidence faltered whenever Elena walked by. No matter how hard she tried, her beauty could not outshine Elena's natural glow. The villagers made it worse. Whispers spread that the prince would surely notice Elena first. Bitterness twisted inside Martha's chest. One evening, as she sat with her friends beneath the udala tree, she spoke through clenched teeth. "Do you not see? If Elena stands among us at the palace, none of us stand a chance. The prince's eyes will find her and forget the rest of us. Unless—" She paused, her lips curling into a sly smile. Adeze leaned closer. "Unless what?" "Unless she disappears from the picture," Martha said, her voice dripping with venom. Her friends exchanged uneasy glances, but said nothing. They knew Martha's hatred for Elena ran deep, fueled daily by her mother's whispers. While envy boiled in Martha's heart, the rest of the village adored Elena even more. Wherever she passed, children gathered, chanting joyfully, "Princess Elena! Princess Elena!" They sang, dancing in circles around her. Some plucked flowers from the roadside and tucked them into her hair, giggling as they declared her the true bride for the prince. Elena, ever humble, laughed softly and bent to touch the children's cheeks. "Go on, my little ones. I am no princess," she would say, though her glowing presence made the denial almost unbelievable. To the villagers, her kindness, beauty, and dignity were unmatched. To Martha and Mama Martha, every compliment thrown at Elena was another dagger of jealousy piercing their hearts. And so, while the kingdom prepared for joy, envy prepared for destruction. In the Ofo household, even mealtime was a silent battlefield. Mama Martha refused to let Elena share from her clay pot. She always said, "A stepchild must not dip her hand where my daughter eats." So the hearth was divided in two. On one side, Elena prepared her meals with care, often cooking with her father. She would pound yam till her arms ached, Grind melon seeds into a smooth paste and stir the pot of soup until the aroma filled the whole compound. Her father, Mr. Ofo, loved those meals dearly. Many evenings he would say with a smile, "Elena, your hand is blessed." Food tastes sweeter when made with love. They would sit together under the mango tree, sharing laughter and quiet joy as they ate from the same pot. On the other side, Mama Martha cooked for herself and her daughter Martha. She guarded her clay pot fiercely, as though it held more than food, as though it was a boundary that separated her bloodline from Elena. Sometimes Mr. Ofo would eat from Mama Martha's pot out of duty, but his heart belonged to Elena's meals. This only fueled Mama Martha's resentment further. One sweltering afternoon, Mama Martha tied her wrapper tightly and carried a basket to the village market. She strolled past the yam sellers, past the fishmongers with their fresh tilapia, until she reached the quiet end of the market where herbs and roots were sold. There sat Nwokocha, the old physician, known for his knowledge of plants and their hidden powers. Mama Martha's eyes darted around before she sat on the low stool across from him. Lowering her voice, she said, "Good man, I have not been sleeping well at night. My eyes stay open, my head feels heavy. Give me herbs that will bring me peace." The old man stroked his grey beard thoughtfully. "You are not the first to complain of sleeplessness. I will give you a blend of leaves and roots. Boil them in water and drink before bed. Sleep will come easily." But Mama Martha had no intention of drinking the herbs herself. As she paid and tucked the bundle into her basket, her lips curled into a smile that never reached her eyes. "It is not I who will sleep," she thought darkly, "but Elena. Tonight she will drink from this brew, and she will not stir while her glory is taken away." When Mama Martha returned home, she wore the mask of tiredness, sighing as though the market had drained her. But in her heart she brimmed with anticipation. She already pictured the floor littered with strands of Elena's long, beautiful hair and her daughter Martha laughing with triumph. That night, a cruel plan was set in motion, one disguised in the innocent steam of a herbal brew. As the evening shadows stretched long across the compound, Mama Martha and her daughter Martha gathered in the kitchen hut. They lit the fire, placed the clay pot on the flames, and poured in the herbs the physician had given. The leaves released a bitter aroma, their scent strong enough to sting the nose. Martha stirred eagerly, her eyes glinting with mischief. "Will it work, Mama?" she whispered. "It will," Mama Martha replied firmly. "By the time it runs through her blood, she will sink into a sleep no noise can break. That is when we strike." When the mixture was ready, they carefully poured it into a calabash and carried it to the sitting room where Mr. Ofo was resting after a long day. His tired eyes lit up when he saw them together. "Mama Martha, Martha," he said warmly, "what have you prepared this time?" Mama Martha lowered her gaze, feigning humility. "Husband, it is nothing much, just some herbs from the market. They say almost everyone in the village drinks it for good health. It cleanses the body and strengthens the blood." She paused, then added softly, "I want peace in this home. I know if I give your daughter myself, she will think I mean her harm. But if you give it to her, she will accept. She trusts you. Please, let us show her I want the best for her." Her words dripped with false kindness, masking the venom beneath. Mr. Ofo studied her face. For years he had prayed for unity in his home, for an end to the silent wars between his wife and his only child. A weary sigh escaped his lips. "Perhaps this is the change we need," he thought. With a nod, he accepted the calabash. Later that evening, Elena returned from the stream, her hands glistening with water and her wrapper damp from carrying the heavy pot. She set it down and smiled at her father, who sat waiting under the lantern's glow. "Elena, my jewel," he said kindly, lifting the calabash. "Here, drink this with me. Mama Martha brought it from the market. They say it is for good health. I have already tasted it myself." His voice held only love and reassurance, and Elena, seeing no reason to doubt, accepted the calabash. "If you have taken it, father, then I will too," she said, raising it to her lips. The bitter liquid burned her tongue, but she swallowed it down bravely. Martha, lurking in the shadows, smirked. She and her mother had not touched a drop. Night crept slowly over the village. The crickets chirped, and the moon cast a silver glow upon the compound. Inside their separate rooms, father and daughter drifted into slumber. But this was no ordinary sleep. It was heavy, unnatural, dragging them down like stones sinking in a river. The hut was quiet. So quiet, in fact, that when Mama Martha pushed Elena's door open, the hinges seemed to scream into the stillness. She stepped inside, Martha close behind, holding a small oil lamp that flickered against the walls. There lay Elena, her long, glorious hair spilling across the mat, catching the lamplight like threads of silk. She did not stir, her breaths deep and even. Mama Martha's lips curled into a smile. She reached into her wrapper and drew out the sharp scissors she had hidden. The metallic sound of the blades opening and shutting filled the room, chilling in the silence of the night. "Now," she whispered. Martha held the lamp closer, her eyes shining with satisfaction. Snip by cruel snip, they cut away the hair that had been Elena's crown, her glory, her pride. The strands fell in heaps around her, covering the floor like golden sacrifices. Martha giggled softly, stifling her joy. "At last," she muttered, "the princess is no more." When they were done, Elena's head was bare, stripped of its beauty, but she slept on, unaware of the betrayal. Mama Martha gathered the fallen hair into a basket, her heart swelling with triumph. "Now let us see if the prince will still call her beautiful," she said coldly. And in the darkness of that night, while the world slept, envy had struck its cruelest blow. The first light of dawn crept gently into Elena's room, painting the walls with streaks of gold. Birds began their songs, and the village roosters crowed in chorus. Elena stirred, her lashes fluttering open. She yawned, stretched, and instinctively reached to sweep her hair back from her face. But her fingers met nothing. Her hand froze. She rubbed again, her heart lurching. Instead of the soft, thick strands she loved, she felt only the smoothness of bare skin. Confusion spread across her face. Slowly, trembling, she sat up. Her eyes darted around the room until they landed on the basket in the corner. Her breath courting her throat. There, piled high in cruel mockery, lay her long, glorious hair, the hair that had once shimmered like woven sunlight, cut, lifeless, tossed into a basket like discarded weeds. A sound tore from her lips, sharp and piercing. No! The cry echoed through the compound, startling even the birds into flight. Mr. Ofo rushed in from his room, panic in his eyes. Mama Martha and Martha came too, but instead of worry, laughter bubbled from their throats. Elena stumbled toward the basket, clutching the severed hair in her arms like a dying child. Tears streamed down her face. Why? Why would the gods punish me so? She cried. Mama Martha folded her arms, her eyes glinting with triumph. The gods have taken your glory, she sneered. Yes, Martha chimed in, clapping mockingly. You are nothing now but a masquerade. Who will look at you twice? She bent over laughing, her voice sharp as broken glass. Elena's sobs filled the room, her pain unbearable. Her father stood frozen, his heart breaking, torn between fury and helplessness. But before he could speak, Elena bolted. She fled past them all, barefoot and weeping, running blindly until the compound was far behind her. The river lay calm, its waters glistening under the early sunday. Elena collapsed at the bank, her body shaking with sobs. She cupped her hands to her bald head, rocking back and forth as grief poured out of her like a flood. She looked at her reflection in the water and recoiled. The girl staring back was not the Elena the villagers praised. Her hair, her crown, her glory was gone. She barely recognized herself. I wish my mother were still alive, she wailed, her voice breaking. What was my offense for the gods to strip me of my beauty in the night? Have I not suffered enough? Her cries rose into the morning air, carrying her anguish across the quiet riverbank. Then she felt its warmth. A hand, firm yet gentle, resting on her shoulder. She stiffened, her tears halting for a moment. Slowly, she turned. Behind her stood a young man, tall and broad-shouldered, his eyes soft with compassion. His garments were simple, giving no clue of his identity, but there was a quiet strength about him that set him apart. Why do you weep so bitterly? He asked, his voice deep yet soothing, like water flowing over stones. Elena lowered her gaze, ashamed. Because I have lost the only thing that made me beautiful, she whispered. My hair, my glory. Now I am nothing. The young man knelt beside her, lifting her chin so their eyes met. His gaze did not waver, even as he looked upon her bald head. Instead, admiration flickered there, a kind that pierced her sorrow. Do not speak such lies, he said firmly. Even without your hair, your beauty shines brighter than the sun itself. Hair is but an ornament. What you carry within you, that cannot be cut away. His words stunned her. For the first time since waking, she felt a flicker of hope. She studied him, his steady eyes, his calm presence, and something in her heart whispered that he spoke truth. She did not know he was Prince Adirika, the very man whose decision would shape her destiny. To her, he was simply a kind stranger by the river. Yet in that moment, she felt less alone. When she returned to the village, however, kindness was scarce. Whispers followed her wherever she walked. Men who once admired her turned away with pity. Women clicked their tongues. Children who once sang her praises now jeered, circling her with cruel chants. "Masquerade! Masquerade!" they sang, laughing as they tugged at imaginary masks. Martha and her friends led the ridicule, their laughter sharp and merciless. "Do not even think of going to the festival," Martha taunted loudly. "The prince would faint at the sight of you." Elena's heart sank deeper with every passing day. She began to wonder if perhaps she truly was cursed. But the young man she met by the river, still visiting her in secret, refused to let her give up. One evening, he clasped her hands in his eyes burning with resolve. "You must promise me," he said, "that you will go to the festival. Even if the world mocks you, even if you feel alone, you must stand tall. Promise me, Elena." His words carried weight she could not explain. With trembling lips, she whispered, "I promise." Meanwhile, Mr. Offal wrestled with his conscience. He replayed the events in his mind, the herbs Mama Martha brought, her insistence that he give them to Elena, the strange heaviness of his own sleep that night. The truth dawned on him like a hammer blow. They had plotted it all. His wife and stepdaughter had betrayed his beloved child. He clenched his fists in anguish. "I should have protected her," he murmured. But he bided his time, waiting for the moment when truth would no longer be denied. The day of the great festival arrived, and the palace was alive with color and sound. Drums thundered, flutes sang, dancers twirled in bright wrappers. Maidens gathered in their finest attire, their hair braided and adorned with beads and cowries, each one glowing with anticipation. The crowd swelled, villagers pressing close for a glimpse of the spectacle. Mothers whispered prayers for their daughters. Fathers boasted quietly. And then came Elena. She walked slowly, her head bare, her heart pounding as mocking laughter rippled through the crowd. Yet she kept her promise. She stood among the maidens, trembling but unyielding. The murmurs grew. Why did she come? Look at her head. Shameful. But Prince Adirika stepped forward, his presence silencing the courtyard. His voice rang out, steady and commanding. "I pray to the gods," he began, "that they would go ahead of me and mark my wife. I asked for a sign, something no man could mistake. All our maidens have long, beautiful hair, but I asked that the gods would strip my true bride of hers, so I might easily know her." Gasps swept through the crowd. Then, with measured steps, he walked past the maidens with flowing locks, straight to Elena. He took her trembling hand, raised it high, and declared, "She is the one, my bride, my queen." The courtyard erupted in shouts of astonishment. Mr. Offal wept openly, pride flooding his heart. Elena stood frozen, tears glistening in her eyes, not of sorrow now, but of joy and disbelief. But Mama, Martha, and Martha could not bear it. They rushed forward, desperation in their voices. "No!" Mama Martha cried. "It was not the gods who took her hair we did. We gave her herbs to make her sleep, and we shaved her ourselves." The crowd gasped, then roared in outrage. Wickedness, jealousy, cruelty. Voices thundered in condemnation. Mr. Offal stepped forward, his face heavy with sorrow. "It is true," he admitted. "They planned it all. I was blinded, but now I see." The king, his face dark with anger, rose from his throne. He lifted his staff, his voice booming. "Such wickedness cannot remain among us. Guards, cast them out at once." The guards seized Mama Martha and Martha, dragging them away as the villagers jeered and spat. Their cries of protest were drowned by the people's fury. Before the crowd, Elena stood with the prince. The jeers of shame had turned to songs of celebration. The bald head, once mocked, now shone like a crown of honor. Mr. Offal knelt before his daughter, tears streaming. "My jewel," he said, his voice trembling. "Your glory was never in your hair, it was always in you." Prince Adirika placed a crown gently upon her head, his eyes never leaving hers. "From this day forth, you are not just my bride," he said. "You are the light of this kingdom." And as drums thundered and the people cheered, Elena finally smiled, a smile born not of hair or adornment, but of love that saw beyond the surface. And so, Elena and Prince Adirika lived happily ever after, their story told for generations as the tale of the girl whose crown could never be cut away.